Chuck Lare. Could I ask a question about, curious about the economics in the whole scheme of things, even though there may be racial tolerance, et cetera. What happens is in the whole white privilege exercise is that people like myself have already, have been able to leverage white privilege to get an advantage, yada, yada. And I'm thinking that the governments, whether it's the port, the county, the city, or whatever, what we could do to motivate them to do more, to expand opportunities where people could get mentored, get the opportunity to shadow various things that the governments could provide for folks so that they could get the experience and get out of this catch-22. Even though people may have an education or may go get training, they get hit with this catch-22 that they can't compete in the workplace. And the government has a lot of openings, needs, etc. And somehow if we could, get HR or whomever to invest in what may not appear to be cost effective, especially in the private sector, but given the payback on the back end, the governments could make that investment in people to give them a leg up.
Yeah, I'll start. Chuck, good seeing you after all these years. Good to see you. Anyway, on that issue, so my starting point here is that what kind of brings us together and the common is the whole the fact that bias and racism has been institutionalized. So any institution, public, private, or whatever, has been built on the premise that the certain groups that have more of a leg up than others, right? More privileged than others, meaning white privilege. And so you have to kind of break that by forcing these organizations to look broader as to how do they help create opportunities? And that should be the role of everyone. But I think the role of government, this is one of the issues where I think the role of government could really be a catalyst and make a difference, because sometimes it starts at a policy, right? It starts at policy, and then it starts at really trying to figure out why do you exist, and how can you help equalize the playing field, per se, on some of these issues that present itself as lack of opportunity for many communities of color. So I would say that the government could be a catalyst, should take the lead in setting the policies, but also leveraging the power of the private sector to follow suit. And I think that that's the way it works. And it's challenging, Chuck, because this whole system has been built up over since the starting of our country, right? And so to try to reverse that totally is going to take some time, but I think it's going to take relooking at our consciousness as a country and really forcing some of the issues about equal opportunity and equality onto all the systems. And government can play a leading role and a catalyst role to do that. But I think that that's what it's going to take, to really reverse that and really challenge the system that's been setting up that has put us in the place that we find ourselves now.
The other thing also, and I know I work with the state regarding this, is to really change the requirement. Oftentimes, when you have job announcement, the requirement is you have to have a master degree or certain, education, when maybe you can do is put there like, the education and or experience. Because oftentimes this is what we find out when we're dealing with domestic violence, sexual assault. They cannot, the victim survivor, they cannot get the job because they don't have quote unquote, the credential. When in fact, if you look at it, their experience probably the best, they know better how to deal with that. So in the state of Washington, we were able to change some of the service standard to make that happen, to make sure that it's accessible to everyone, not just having those people that have the credential. Because if I don't have the credential, it don't matter if I know the knowledge and expertise, but because that's the requirement, I cannot even access to that. So I think that's another thing that we need to look into, the King County, the state, the city, all the government, is change the policy or make that happen so that it will be more, available to immigrants, or other people of color, marginalized, that can really help them to get the job that they need. So just want to say that.
Thanks, Emma.